name's Earl German. I'm a state licensed prevention specialist and a preferred provider of services for the Wisconsin Council on Problem Gambling. I work over on Olin Avenue in Madison at Family Service, Madison. Some while ago, a friend of mine at the Stoughton Senior Center told me on the occasion of her 80th birthday, "Getting old is hard, Earl, but misery is optional." And she's right. Old age has often been described as nothing so much as a period of grieving and loss. We lose spouses, good friends and siblings pass on. Many of us aren't working anymore, our careers are over, and that involves sometimes a crisis in self-worth, especially in a culture like our own, which wants to value us according to what we do for a living. We heard a lot of the time, can't sleep right, worry about chronic conditions and try to make it on fixed incomes. But so long as we have the power of choice, misery is indeed optional, and happy aging is within our reach. So what is happiness anyway? For years it has been of interest mainly to poets, novelists, songwriters, and movie makers. But over the last couple of decades, the study of happiness has drawn the attention of academic personnel and specialists in all fields: gerontology, social psychology, economics, and even history. Well, what are they finding? Some of their conclusions might surprise you. It's not necessarily money. Money is very important, particularly if you're trying to make it at the lower end of the spectrum. But those who are living pretty close to the margins and those who are somewhere in the middle of income availability tend to report about the same degree of satisfaction with their financial status. Ironically, people with vast wealth don't. They seem to be concerned most of the time about losing what they've got. The Boston College for the Study of Wealth has for 40 years studied the lifestyles and the emotional status of the very, very wealthy. And they recently completed a study in which they surveyed 165 households. I think I've got that right. Do I have that right? 165 households where the average net wealth was 78 million bucks. Many of these householders didn't report any sense of security with their financial well-being. A lot of them thought they'd be a whole lot better off if they could have just 25% more. So if it's not money in and of itself, is health the key to happiness? Like money, health's very important. But unlike money, over which we have only limited control, sometimes no control if we're on a fixed income, we've got a lot of control over how we choose to address our health. And you've heard all this, I'm sure. Eat regularly. Try to have 2 or 3 meals a day and finish off with the lightest meal of the day. Don't live on junk food. Like Grandma said, eat your veggies and your fruits. Keep your medical appointments. Don't smoke. Exercise. For a lot of us at our age, we're on a host of prescription medications. Older adults consume well over 30% of all the prescriptions written in this country. Know what each one of your prescriptions is for. Write it down, carry it with you. Know when to take it and what strength. Make sure that if you're on a new medicine that's prescribed for a new prescription, make sure that it's compatible with the other prescriptions you're taking. In this day and age, everything is supposed to be on computers, but so many of us are seeing more than one doctor, sometimes a primary physician and sometimes a specialist. In my case, I've got neuropathy, so I go see a neurologist from time to time, and that doesn't hit the computers always. So one doctor might prescribe something which doesn't gel with something else that you're on. And it is our responsibility to ask those questions. It's not that the doctors are negligent, it's just that the insurance companies keep a clock on them these days, and they don't have a lot of time to spend with us. If you have any doubt at all about the prescription drugs you're on and whether they're going to cause you some problems, talk to a pharmacist. They have a lot of time. You don't have to go make an appointment with your primary physician and see what they say. Very importantly, if you like to drink alcohol, and who doesn't in Wisconsin, it's the hardest drinking state in the nation. Be very mindful that alcohol can negate some of the benefits that prescription drugs are on, so you get worse, not better. The American Medical Association recommends that for folks 60 and over, they have no more than 2 drinks at any one drinking occasion, no more than 4 a week. And when they say drinks, if say you like a couple of glasses of wine a night, they're talking about a couple of glasses in standard wine glasses, not A&W root beer mugs. 19% of hospital admissions among older adults are for adverse drug interactions, and very often alcohol is involved. It's very likely that many of us will encounter an unexpected diagnosis of a chronic condition. Try the best you're able not to let that get you down. Try to maintain optimism and a comfortable state of mind. Resilience is the capacity to bounce back from adversity. It can be measured. And resilient people live longer, report more happiness than folks who don't. So, if a lot of money isn't the key to happiness, and if we do have control over our health, what's the key to happiness? According to the researchers who are conducting these studies on happiness, the answer is very simple. It's socializing. Stay connected with your family, with your friends. Come to senior centers like this one. People who maintain active social lives fare much better. The state of their health is much better. Their outlook is much better. Unfortunately, there are a lot of folks our age who don't understand that. You guys get it. I mean, here you are today. But we all know of them. They don't get out of the house very much. They don't return calls. They stop seeing their doctors, and they plunge into a chronic and very deep depression. Depression is epidemic among this population of elders, and a whole lot of them turn to alcohol to try to escape the here and now. They do so without understanding all the risks involved. The older we get, the more lean body mass converts to fat. So there's much less water available in our bodies to dilute alcohol before it hits the bloodstream, fat not retaining water. Also, there are enzymes in our stomach which are there to break down poisons before they hit the liver, and alcohol is a poison. Those aren't working like they used to. Our livers are impaired. The result is that a couple of drinks at age 65 may hit like 4 or 5 to 20, 25 years earlier. I should add one other thing here, and I will. If you like to go to the casino and play the slots, and older adults do in great numbers, be very careful. It used to be that problem gambling was considered an impulse control, like nail biting or hair pulling. It's not anymore. According to the latest diagnostic and statistical manual, which was just published, problem gambling is now a bona fide addiction. It develops very quickly, unlike all other addictions. you can move from a recreational gambler to a problem gambler and a pathological gambler in very short order, sometimes within 2 years. And it's devastating. It's devastating, especially to people of our age. I mean, the losses are amazing. I'm seeing a woman right now who had a good career with the state government. Got interested in going to the casinos with friends just as a recreational outing. Started gambling. Her goal was if she could win $50 a week on the slots, then she could go out to dinner and see a movie. And that's actually the way it started off. But then, and this is typical people who develop problems, she had a big win. She won $700 or $800. So, instead of pocketing that money, she started gambling that money. She figured she was on a roll. And that is one of the main distinctions that divide gamblers from, say, drinkers. Gamblers believe in magic. It doesn't matter how much they've lost. It doesn't matter how long they've been losing. They think the next outing to the casino, their ship's going to come in. Very often they don't stop then. They think, well, hey, my luck's changed. And they just keep right on gambling. I'm not anti-casino. I understand how pleasurable trips. Yes, ma'am.
I wanted to tell you that we went up to Ho Chunk, and we went up with my husband's brother and his wife, and because we helped them print T-shirts and sell T-shirts at Dairy Expo, they gave us each $50 for gambling. But I hate gambling. I hate it. So I pocketed mine. My husband went down to $15 and he stopped. But there was a couple sitting next to us, and the woman said to us, the machine your husband is playing at, this woman went up to over $1,000. And instead of checking out, she kept thinking, I'm gonna win. She lost it all.
Yeah, lost it all.
She lost it all.
Well, I have worked with 70-year-olds who have lost everything. Lost their houses, lost every bit of money they had in retirement, all of their stocks and annuities, even funds for their grandkids' education.
Oh,
Be aware that casinos, even though they're very good, it used to be they made all their money on table games, poker, dice, roulette. Now it's slot machines. And the largest consumer of slot machines are older adults.
that's right. That's right.
They know that. So they're very welcoming. They want the older adults in there. There's a greeter at the door, looks like the rest of us. You're in the company of peers in the afternoons if you go to the casino. You can get your oxygen tanks filled there. They'll give you Depends. They've got medical personnel.
No, I'm kidding.
They've got medical personnel there with defibrillators. They want you in there. They also hire a dictionologist. And these folks just walk the floors to see how slot machine players are responding to the machine. What they've discovered is that near misses are just about as thrilling, maybe more thrilling than wins. It seems as if the gambler is thinking, man, the machine is heating up. I'm on the verge here or something. Accordingly, the designers of slot machines build in a lot of near misses. They also design machines that are of interest to folks our age, usually based on, series, TV shows we watched as kids. I Dream of Jeannie, the Brady Bunch. The machines, the newer machines, are designed so people in wheelchairs can pull up comfortably to them. And the standard advice is, listen, folks who go to casinos, folks our age, who stick to a budget, enjoy the trip maybe more than people who never get there. So take only as much money as you can afford to lose. If you lose more than that, that's a problem. If it gets to be a pattern, get help. If people who get in difficulty with gambling will often call the Problem Gamblers Helpline in Green Bay, which is 1-800-GAMBLE-5. And if you were to call that number, they'd want to know what your area code is, because they keep track of where is gambling the most problematic. They'd want to know your gender. They'd want to know what age you are. Then they ask you, well, what do you estimate your gambling losses to be? And you give them a figure. At the end of the month, they tally the losses and divide them by the number of calls and come up with an average loss. Anybody want to take a guess as to what that might be these days? Well, it's over 170,000.
Oh my gosh.
People didn't start out going to the casino to lose $170,000. It just builds. It's ruinous. Problem gambling is easily concealed. You're not ingesting anything. You don't reek of Jack Daniels. You don't stag or walk. Card player, I saw it told me, he said, nobody knew I had a problem with gambling. You can't smell cards on my brother. Problem gamblers, pathological gamblers, commit suicide, complete suicide, in greater number than all other addicts combined. So be careful, enjoy yourself, set your limits, and enjoy the outing, because food's good, there's usually entertainment, and and it's a social experience, which is a good thing.
I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
I know there are 12-step meetings for just about everything in terms of gambling too. Are there places that treat, some of these addiction places that treat alcoholism and everything else? Do they
For
treat
gambling?
too?
Yeah.
They do? Like Hazelden or any of those places?
There are 2 or 3 very specific treatment centers for problem gambling. There isn't one in Wisconsin. There's one in Illinois. There's one in Iowa. If you call the Wisconsin Council on Problem Gambling, they'll tell you where they are. And it's worth calling, because what you have to be aware of is, who's going to pay for this? Will the insurance companies pay for it? They never did it before. Now they're somewhat obligated to pay, because problem gambling is considered an addiction like alcohol or cocaine or something like that. But they're not going to be very eager to pay it. It's expensive. You can easily spend $25,000.
But I imagine there's Gamblers Anonymous groups.
There are
that
Gamblers
don't
Anonymous
cost
groups around.
anything.
Madison's got 2 or 3 of them. They vary in dependability as to who comes. I've gone to some of those and nobody's been there. I've gone to some of the others and there might be 4 or 5 people there. I'm recovering from a lot of disorders, and I got well going to 12-step meetings. They ran a study at Hazelton several years ago, and said Hazelton is probably the best treatment facility in the world. And they tracked people who were checking into Hazelton for the first time. Very first treatment experience, this for alcohol. With people who were going to AA for the very first time, no prior experience. At the end of the year, the people who had gone through Hazelton, the people who were going to AA had the very same outcomes. Hazelton's 40 grand a year. So you can go to, and Madison, there's one here, Madison's a hard town to get sober in. I mean, it's party central, especially around the campus, and always has been. #1 party school in the country. More alcohol outlets per capita than anywhere else in the country. More drunk driving arrests, more of this, more of that. And it has led the nation in binge drinking in every year since the Centers for Disease Control kept such records. On the other hand, there are a lot of fine treatment facilities in Madison, and there are AA meetings all the time, practically around the clock. So you can get sober and stay sober in Madison too. Gambling's a little different. I mean, gambling has cachet. I mean, how many movies have we seen where a gambler is romanticized? Certainly on the old Western TV dramas, there was always a gambler. But what about a low bottom alcoholic, you know, falling down, wetting his pants, not glamorized, no cachet at all? I've spoken to groups such as yourselves on a couple of occasions, and I remember at one, it's mostly women, I asked about drinking. Nobody talked about it. No. They might say, well, my husband had a problem. Then talk about themselves having that problem. So what about gambling? Boy, the room lit up. Yeah, you know, and she wins all the time. It's.
Well, bingo's not gambling.
I mean, it's not, it doesn't carry the same stigma that alcoholism or drug abuse does. But the downside of it can be infinitely more punishing than crack cocaine. Be careful. Go enjoy yourself. Have a good time. Like the food. They have some great old 50s doo-wop groups playing all the time there. And you just have to be very wary. I mean, the casinos are designed to get you money. That's all.
They're to make money, not to give
That's
it
right.
away.
That's right. And they know who's consuming slot machines. They know it's us guys. Or we guys.
They have,
But in Saturday, that bishop that was driving to Sun Prairie, the person, I read in this morning's paper, the person that was following on Highway 151, there's these rumble bars along the
Right.
shoulder of the road. He went on that a couple of times, and then in this morning's paper, he didn't say anything about the booze causing his problem. He was fiddling with the radio.
Yeah.
But
excuses.
he didn't stop to aid that woman or anything. And, you know, that was the first time, but like they said, about maybe a year and a half ago or something, his wife was diagnosed with cancer, and it was quick cancer, and she had died, so that changed his lifestyle and things like that there. So I guess he used the bottle to kind of ease the pain of losing his companion, and when something happens in your life that it's something you don't expect, it makes that look kind of appealing, or you take medication to kind of ease the pain and stuff like that there. And like probably at least over 60 or 70% of the people that are taking medication, well, if they have a cocktail hour at 5 o'clock, well, they're not going to give up their cocktail hour because of the medication they're taking. You know, they'll just maybe limit it to 2 drinks instead of 4. And most of the time, any medication, you're not supposed to take alcohol with it. So
You brought up something I had a question about, what you were talking about earlier, the interaction between, you know, medication. I remember my mother-in-law, when she was still alive, having just bottles and bottles of pills for things she was diagnosed, sitting on her kitchen counter, and she had a drink every night.
Yeah.
You know, at least one, probably more.
Probably.
And are doctors pretty crummy about talking about that? I mean, do they even talk about it at all?
and
Well,
they'll go to 2 or 3 different doctors to get
Yeah.
more stuff.
That's true.
I mean,
I mean, people won't listen anyway
No.
necessarily, but I'm just curious,
Yeah.
just your impression of the
let me answer
medical
this question
community.
I have essential tremor,
Mhm.
and one of the things, I don't have it of the head, but I have it of the hands. And one of the things that calms it down is a drink.
Mhm.
But I just won't let myself do it. And I've done some absolutely crazy things. You know, when my hands start
That's
shaking.
okay.
But I might have a small glass of wine with my husband at the end of the day. But it does calm it down, and the doctor told me that.
My in-laws had a drink every day. They had a little brandy shot every single day before bedtime, and they were in their 90s when they died. So that's probably better than any pills you can take.
Well, I take
Definitely.
some pills, but-
Moderation.
If you're not
In
an
moderation.
alcoholic,
Yep.
you can moderate it. If
You
you're an
can moderate it,
alcoholic,
but
you
Yeah.
can't moderate it.
there are
That's-
certain,
that's-
Yeah, we moderate.
Yeah,
right?
you can
Oh,
moderate it, yeah.
there are certain families of medication which you shouldn't drink at all when you take anti-anxiety medication, pain medication. Watch out for certain mood stabilizers. Valium, it's real easy for, to think, this is getting good to me, this Valium stuff. Follow the doctors or follow the directions on the pill bottle, because it can, adverse alcohol in certain prescription mixes can lead to cognitive impairment, to falls, and it can be fatal. It does kill people. Columbia University did a study several years ago. They were curious about all the number of people in their care who were diagnosed with dementia. So they reevaluated them all, and this time did a deep screen for alcohol. And what they found out is 30% of the people weren't demented. They were having adverse reactions to the medications when they drank with alcohol. To get right back to your question, I had a long drinking history. And I never, whenever I got a physical, the doctors never asked me how much I was drinking. Now, they're starting to do that, or should do that. Picard, the agency I'm with, did for a while go into the medical college here in Madison and just work with, folks who are in school to become, I say, look, screen for alcohol. It's rampant.
What do you think, as a former alcoholic, that we should be doing with these people that have 5 DUIs or 6 DUIs? I mean, we were driving home from Stoughton after a dinner, and all the way home, when a car came at us, I thought, oh my gosh, I hope that person hasn't been drinking. What can we do to stop it?
Well, the state is pretty much in the grip of the tavern. So every year when we try to increase the penalties for drunk driving, the tavern manages to defeat. We're the only state.
Big lobby.
Yeah.
Or raise the taxes on booze to,
Right,
Yeah.
which would then support prevention programs.
Yes.
I lived down south for a long time in North Carolina, and this is rural North Carolina, it's in the foothills of the Blue Ridge, and it was not unusual on a Friday night, maybe in the middle of the week, you go down one of these narrow, windy roads and the pine trees on either side. There'd be a state police car parked like that, and a state police car parked like that, and they were stopping everybody. Make sure you were sober, and make sure your car was safe. They've never been able to do, they'll to blanket certain areas like New Year's Eve where they'll have more cruisers. But they don't stop you unexpectedly like that, because it's been, every time that proposal has been, even if you can find representatives to introduce that proposal, it's defeated. No, that's in trial. What's going to be done about them? I remember 4 or 5 years ago there was an article in Isthmus. They interviewed a guy who was in prison on his, 10th DWI or something like that. And they asked him just what you asked, what could be done to keep folks like yourself off the road? He said, you've got to lock us out. He said, I tell you right now, when I get out, I'll be drinking again and I'll be driving again. So you're right to be aware that on a Friday or a Saturday night,
Oh,
1 in 4 of the
so
cars
scary.
you're gonna be encountering somebody's been drinking, driving.
I was born in Norway, and I went back when I was 23, and my cousin got married, and there was alcohol at the celebration. My uncle hired a taxi for everybody to go home in the taxi, and the next morning they came and got their car,
Got their car.
because Norway would take your car away.
Yeah, I mean, there are countries who don't play around with drunk driving.
They do not.
But not here. I mean, Wisconsin has a drinking culture. It's not just that hard drinking is accepted, it's a value. It's a value here. I mean, the Department of Tourism at one point wanted to put on its letterhead a brat and a frosty mug of beer. So, just be wise about things. And if you grow up in a state like this, I mean, I grew up in an alcoholic family. So when I started drinking when I was a teenager, that's the way I thought you're supposed to drink. You drink till you get drunk, everybody else I knew was doing that.
Well, it becomes a disease.
It is a disease.
Yeah.
It is a disease.
Disease.
It's a mental health disease. It involves
And it's
brain
more
function.
prevalent in some families than in other
A
families.
lot. It's inherited in some families.
Yeah.
It can skip generations.
Yeah.
But there's a strong hereditary component in substance abuse of all kinds.
Well, then gambling must be a disease also. Would you say it was a disease?
That is, according to the in case you're not aware, Diagnostic and Statistical Manual is a list of all mental health conditions. It could be anything in there, from paranoia, schizophrenia, to crack cocaine addiction. And if you look one up, it'll have certain symptomology. And if you say there are 5 for problem gambling, loss of control, blah, 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 blah. If you say, yep, on 4 of those, then you've got now a disease. Now you've got the disease. You're a problem gambler. That enables the insurance companies to pay. Insurance company's not going to pay for your condition unless you carry a diagnosis. So that's the best. So I was very surprised to see. But people who've been around problem gambling for most of their work knew it operates like a disease. I mean, you start out, it's fun, it's experimental. Maybe you have a chance to win a little bit. And then it takes more and more gambling action to give you the same high. Pretty soon you're heedless about the money you're losing. It's progressive. It's just very progressive. And it just wipes out family and causes a lot of suicides. So sure, it should be a treatable public health issue, just like alcohol.
Are people who have one addiction more prone to have other addictions? I mean, are there studies that show that, or
Mhm.
just curious?
There's the so-called addictive personality. And I've known a lot of people. I knew a guy who, his drug of choice was heroin. And he was in treatment 11 times and did several years in prison. And he got out and he never used heroin again, but he got into gambling. And he'd drive down across the border in Illinois to buy all those things. And yeah, you can trade one for the other. It's any addiction. I mean, your brain is just flooded with dopamine, which is the feel-good thing that makes us content. Any addiction floods your brain with dopamine. Oddly, brain develops from the back to the front. And the very back is an area, I can't remember what it's called. They all have these funny Greek and Latin. But it's the early warning system. It's the segment of the brain which tells you to stop doing what you're doing. It develops early, probably to protect kids. The front of the brain it controls executive decision making. It also controls that area of the brain where it just makes us feel good about things. They've done a lot of neuroscience and a lot of brain scans. When gamblers are in action, the front of the brain lights up like a Christmas tree. The back of the brain, which contains caution, or regulates caution, doesn't even show. It's just dark. So they just keep going. And with all of the changes in the design of slot machines, I just got back from the annual conference on Wisconsin Council on Problem Gambling. And the debate these days is what causes pathological gambling? How do people slide from being a recreational gambler and having some problem to where they lose it all? What is that progression? And it's not just the personnel. The debate is not. It's not just the personnel. It's the design of the machines. I mean, quite a bit like drink specials in bars. You go in there and happy hour that goes on for several hours. Drink specials. So if you go in there to drink, you're going to drink more probably than you intended if you're a drinker. And it can develop into an addiction.
What exactly do they do? I've never been to, a slot machine place. What
Okay.
exactly are they doing with the slot machines?
Well, they're all the time introducing new models to try to attract gamblers. They know that older adults are their largest consumer of slot action. Slot action funds the casinos, not poker, slots. So a lot of those machines are nostalgia based. They also have addictionologists that walk the floors. And they note that near misses excite gamblers as much as a small one. So they program a lot of the low-end slots, the penny machines, the nickel machines, with a host of near misses to keep you going, because to the gamblers, the machine's heating up. Well, it's not heating up. Winning is entirely random. Your chance of winning a jackpot on a penny machine just as good as on a $100 machine. It's all random. But gamblers who believe in magic or luck don't think that way. They think their time has come. They think the machine is ready. They go through all of these mental gymnastics to keep on plugging that machine.
You've mentioned addictionologists a couple of times. Are those supposedly people that treat people, or it sounds like they're people that are hired by these places to bring in more money?
Well, they are.
That's what they are.
It's just exactly like,
Okay.
we've all read in the paper about medical personnel who go to work for pharmaceutical companies.
Yeah,
Pharmaceutical companies always have a pill ready. What they need is a condition.
okay.
And
That's
it's
what-
all orchestrated. I mean, all of a sudden, we're hearing a lot about shingles. It's advertised on TV. Shingles can be a big inconvenience. Well, they also now have introduced an injection, which is, I think, $190 to fight shingles. So it gets you thinking about shingles. Yeah, I had chickenpox. Boy, I better get that shot. It's the same with low blood pressure meds.
It's all money.
Yeah, it's just
Money
all
is
about
the name
money.
of the game.
So, yeah, so they hire addictionologists, people that pay them very, very well. And all they gotta do is walk around and observe and make suggestions. The designers of the machines, often these are the same people who design video games. That gambling spread fast among kids too. And a lot of them have been video game players, where you play fast and you play aggressively. And then they get into internet gambling. And they're not supposed to gamble, but these kids are so savvy about technology, they can screw it. Saw an interview with a kid, 26 years old, who had made millions on internet gambling, playing poker, hold'em, and any game. And he has 4 or 5 computers going at any given time in his apartment. He's got games running 4 or 5 different casinos. So it's just, it's crazy. I don't know, I mean, should it be controlled? I mean, I don't think that the casinos are doing anything particularly wrong. They're there to make money. Buyer beware.
They're kind of hard pressed to control it when the state's kind of a co-conspirator.
Exactly.
And the state's got, anytime you put money in a machine, basically, and play the thing and it comes to an end, the state in real time finds out about it because they've got tax money that they expect coming.
Right.
And they get a certain cut on all this as a
Right.
part of their tax.
So the more these places make, the more the state's getting in taxes.
Yes.
They're not gonna stop.
I watched part of this guy that did the Indians' State of the Address last night on Channel 21. And the Indians contribute $51 million out of their revenue that they take in from all their casinos. And Governor Walker never even mentioned that, and how he didn't even consult with them about the mining, which is like maybe 5 miles from where they get their water and the rice and all this other things and stuff like that there. So they've contributed in I don't know how many thousands of jobs that they have contributed to the state of Wisconsin and stuff like that there, and he didn't even consider them because I guess they didn't give a bunch of money to his campaign coffers.
Yeah.
So it's one of those things like that there.
But the mining people, what did he get, $11 million from the mining people?
Yep. So and they wrote the mining bill.
Oh, sure.
So
Oh, sure.
it's ridiculous.
And one of the things, if you read the mining bill, says that we won't count any water pollution against you.
Right, yeah, well, that's the golden rule, the ones with the gold make the rules, and, it's sort of like now I'm in my seventies and I have a certain place where I keep certain things, and a lot of times I don't really put them where I should. I hang them on a chair instead of hanging them up, and then when my wife hangs them up where they should be, then I can't find it, so. So then, and like, every once in a while, I would be daydreaming and looking at the scenery when I'm driving, and once I went through a stop sign. So now, whenever there's an arterial coming up, she reminds me that there's a stop sign coming up, because she wants to be along on the next trip and stuff like that. And if I can't find the car keys, I gotta think, well, I should have put them where I always put them. But I was in a hurry, and what jacket was I wearing, or what pair of
That's a sign of
trousers was I
dementia.
wearing? Yeah, so,
That's a sign of dementia, so be careful.
yeah. So, someone said, you've got too many things on your mind, you gotta get rid of some
Well,
of
I
the
don't know, I
clutter.
took care of my husband, and he had dementia. I took care of him for 12 years.
Yeah,
And it's not a funny game.
no,
It's not a funny game.
that's,
You do have to laugh about things, or you go crazy yourselves.
yeah. Oh,
But,
I helped a person
But-
whose husband was in the beginning parts of that. And it's, that is probably the most difficult thing to do, where this person, in a period of maybe 2 years, the person's still there, but everything else about them is gone. They don't remember anything, and,
they don't remember you,
yeah, it's,
they don't remember your name,
yeah, so,
no.
Getting back to the gambling and how they make it so attractive. A bus comes to our senior center,
Mm.
and to go for a ride. It's a beautiful bus, like a Badger bus or something like that. It cost $28 per person to drive all the way to Dubuque, drive all the way back. You get a meal down there that is paid for with this $28. And you get $10 for gambling. You know, they make it so attractive.
Sure, they
That's
make
Yeah,
it.
Diane's
really
not
easy.
here.
real easy.
I'll tell you what, the big winners, I've known people who were big winners. And the
Yes,
casinos will comp your next trip there. They'll give you a place to stay, they'll cover your transportation. They want you there because they know odds are you're gonna lose, and they'll get their money
Yeah,
back.
so is it, the age range thing, is it people, studies show people over 65 or more have to go there, or 60,
To
or
maybe
to gamble?
slot players, the largest consumers of slots are older adults.
Okay.
For one thing, you can go there alone, you don't need a partner to
Yeah, that's a
go.
good point.
Right,
And they're
yeah.
cheap to do the slots.
And many older adults don't have a partner, so that's
Right.
one place that they can go and not feel, out of place,
Right,
because.
you're right.
Exactly, and other reasons too. I mean, a lot of folks who go to the casinos to play the slots, and they're probably playing the penny slots, maybe some a little bit more expensive at that, report that their depression is alleviated while they're playing the machines, because they're playing the machines. They're not thinking about their cares and concerns. Chronic pain is alleviated, people report, by gambling. It's, I'm very interested in the studies that sort of women are particularly at risk for gambling. Most of the research on women and gambling is being done in Canada, but some of it's awful interesting. They've interviewed women who are about our age and ask them, why do you go to the casinos? Well, the answers range from, well, it's exciting and it's fun, to we can now. And what they're meaning is that many of these women have been in, if not physically abusive marriages, very controlling marriages, where they're expected to run the budget and not bear societal expectations about what's expected of the homemaker. Well, now, by God, they can go to a casino and waste a little money if they want to, and they do. And and they enjoy it. It's almost like the final stage of women's liberation is being acted out on the, on the floors of casinos.
Most of the women on the bus, and I know they get a little upset with me, but I don't like to go there. And my husband, yeah, it's okay, but that's all he gambles. But most of them are women
Mhm.
on the bus.
Yeah, that's been my experience, and speaking to groups at, retirement centers and senior living facilities.
Yeah,
Won't say much about drinking or drug use. And drug use runs pretty high among older adults. Extraordinary number of older adults smoke pot.
So what are these older women, or whatever,
Mhm.
older adults
Mhm.
should be doing to be happy? You know, I'm not a gambler, I don't go on those bus trips gambling, I've been to a casino and slot machines don't do a thing for me.
Right.
In 10 minutes, I'm done,
you're
that's it.
right, yeah.
I'm done.
I understand.
Very boring, I can't find any enjoyment out of that.
Just can't
But,
say.
what are the alternatives? What other things are there out there for, people
I think that's a good question,
That's a
should
really
be
good
doing,
question.
very good question.
I'll tell you one, they have, Verona has a senior exercise program, a water exercise program.
Okay.
Oh,
And
it's
they must have-
terrific.
Yeah, I bet you there, yesterday there was probably up at 30 people in the pool.
That
Oh,
over
you
at the
were there
school?
yesterday?
Yes.
Up at the high
Oh,
school.
well, I skipped, and
Oh, okay.
and more people told my husband,
Yeah.
the blabbermouth. But senior, it's absolutely
Well,
wonderful.
Yeah, I just had surgery, so I can't go
Oh,
there.
I
But they have a
understand.
ton of programs here
Yeah.
too, they've got regular exercise
Yeah, yeah.
programs
Mhm.
and
Well, just
Yeah,
socializing.
shopping
I mean,
and-
here you are, you're at the senior
Yeah.
center.
lunch.
But I just thought you had some really different,
Not really. I
ideas.
mean, it's pretty simple.
yeah,
Get out of the
birthday
house.
cards and listen to the music and stuff like that.
Socialize,
Sure.
socialize,
Yeah.
socialize. That's the key to happiness, according to all these
Invite
research.
someone over for a cup of coffee,
Oh, yeah.
just
Right.
visit, you know.
Yes, I have ladies.
Join book circles,
You'll be
volunteer.
nuts if they stopped over at your house one day.
That's
when
what
you
I
were
do
upset.
there.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's a woman in Massachusetts, I think she's in Massachusetts, named Laura Carstens, and she's a sociologist. And she tracks the emotional status of volunteers, and they range in age from 18 to 94. Each one of the volunteers carries a beeper. And 35 times a week, Laura beeps each one of them and asks them how they are feeling right at that exact moment by choosing from one of a variety of emotional states. And what she has reported is that 70-year-olds consistently report more positive states of emotion than 40-year-olds, and 80-year-olds more positive emotional states than 50-year-olds. And all of such respondents are socially connected. They volunteer, they go to senior centers, they learn to use Facebook and track down old high school buddies. What they've learned is what, it behooves us all to learn, is that life really is not a destination, it's a journey. So if you kind of stay in the here and now and try to be mindful of your health, I think we all have it is a time of life where we pretty much know our strengths and weaknesses. And we should be able to age quite happily. There are many benefits I've discovered. 71, I'll be 71 in a couple of weeks. I used to be all about trying to impress people, trying to get ahead, trying to do this, trying to do that. I don't care so much anymore. I'm grateful I got a job. I've had so many of them, largely because of the various addictions I was laboring under. But I have no reasonable hopes of retirement. And that's okay. I mean, I like what I do for a living, and I think I'll probably have a job as long as I have my health. And because I've known from past, I worked construction for years and years until I got sick. And I'd always get laid off, and I'd think, okay, this is gonna be the time, I'm gonna get a decent job, because it's very iffy. It's very so dependent on the weather, and I was on green crews or iron worker, and it was all about the weather. And then I would, so I get very busy about that for a week or two. Then I'd lose interest. Then I'd start taking naps. Then I'd even turn on the soaps, and then pretty soon I was drinking and drugging. Boredom is my primary enemy. I have a very low threshold for boredom. So if it's nothing more than getting out and sitting at a coffee shop and being around people and talking to them, that's enough. That's a whole lot better for my prospects than not going out of the house at all and trying to go and use myself for television.
What is your, I get out a lot and
Mhm.
try to do stuff and come to the senior center. What can I do to organize my life at home? 'Cause I'm out.
Mhm.
The dishes are still in the sink. I gotta go home for stuff. And that makes me depressed. And when I get out again, I go to the library, I do something. But my home work is not getting done.
Do that first.
Mm.
Do that first.
Put it
Do
on
your-
lower priority than the
Do
others.
your dishes
That's
first,
what I do.
then go play.
I don't feel like
I know.
Eat on paper plates.
Hey, we do
I agree
that.
entirely with what
We
you,
do that.
entirely with what you're saying. I was a huge procrastinator.
And
still am.
And I get home, I'm
See,
bored.
I do that first and then I
I hate
play.
television, I don't watch TV.
I walk across